Hi, my name is Liam and I'm 31 years old. I'm currently the sales regional head of a big firm. I have a beautiful wife and two amazing daughters. We just moved into our new home and everyone is quite happy about it. I'm living a good life. I have a job that pays well, a beautiful family, and a new house. But things were not always like this. My mother, Ruth, raised me all on her own. I grew up watching my mom work all day so she could pay for my school and everything. She's a great woman. I don't know what I would have done without her. After I graduated from college and got a good job, my mom remarried. She's happy now. My stepdad, George, is a good man and he treats my mom well. We often visit them, and let me tell you, my daughters love their grandparents. They always have a blast whenever they are together. Looking at my mom with my daughters often reminds me of how far we've come. Mom and I were all alone, and now we have a beautiful family. However, 3 years ago I met my real dad. It was around 6 in the evening and I was going home from the office. I usually use my car, but it broke down a couple of days back, so I had to use a taxi. And Lord knows it's almost next to impossible to get a taxi where I work when it's evening rush. It had almost been 10 minutes since I was calling out for a taxi, but every one of them that crossed by already had a passenger in it. Then suddenly a taxi stopped right in front of me, and I saw an old man in his mid-50s calling me in. He asked me where I wanted to go. I told him the address to my last home. He told me we could share the cab as he was also headed the same way. I knew I would have had to wait a good while to get another one, so I agreed and got in the taxi. Hey, I'm Charles. It's really a headache to find a taxi at this hour, isn't it? Tell me about it, you're a savior. I was standing there for like 10 minutes and I couldn't find an empty taxi. I'm Liam, by the way. It's good to meet you. Liam, that's a good name. Is it? Do you like it? Well, that makes one of us. Haha, so you're headed home. Yes, there's nothing more I want right now than a hot shower and a hot chocolate, while I sit on my couch and watch some TV. Sounds like a plan. Do you have a family? Yes. You must really love them. Well, yes, of course. What about you? Where are you going? I'm just going to a friend's place for dinner. I'm old, you know. Just a boring dinner with my old friends. That sounds like a good plan. Oh, that's me right here. Please stop the car. How far is your place from here? It's not very far. I'll reach in about 5 to 7 minutes. That's good. It was really good to meet you, Liam. You too, thank you. How much? Charles paid the driver and left, and we drove away. As I saw Charles fade away, I thought to myself he looked strangely familiar. He seemed to be too interested in me and my life. But then I thought, maybe he was just friendly, that's all. He really seemed like a friendly guy, offering to share his taxi. And then after some time, I forgot about it. But I saw a wallet lying in the taxi next to me. I asked the driver if it was his. It wasn't his. So I took the wallet and opened it. It had a little money in it and some identification cards. I took out the card and looked at it. It was Charles's. He had left his wallet there. I told the taxi driver to turn the car around, but he didn't. I understood if he didn't want to go back. It was quite late and he wanted to go home. I looked at the card again and it had his address on it. However, there was no contact number. I decided to go to the address the next day after work to give Charles his wallet back. The next day I woke up, it was just like any regular day. I took a shower, had breakfast, and went to work. It was a regular day in the office as well, nothing unusual. In the evening after work, I had the mechanic deliver my car to my office. I sat in my car, set Charles's address and navigation, and took off. The place wasn't very far, it was like a 15 to 20 minute drive. I reached the address, it was a neighborhood of small houses. I looked for his house number and there it was. I got out of the car and went to his house. I knocked on the door and Charles opened it. He looked at me but didn't look surprised at all. He invited me in, told me to sit on the couch while he grabbed a beer for both of us. He came back with 3 beers, handed me one for himself, and kept one on the table. As I took the first sip of beer, he said, Liam, I have been waiting for you. For me? You knew I would bring your wallet? I deliberately left it there with my ID card in it so you could find the address. What? Why would you do that? How's Ruth? Ruth? My mother? How do you know her? Who are you? I need to tell you something, but I need you to stay calm. Okay, well, what's going on? I am your father, Liam. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, right? Is this a prank? Because if it is, it's a disgusting one. Calm down, Liam. I am your father. It's me. I can understand if you're upset. Alright, this is it. I'm going. And whoever you are, mister, I hope this miserable joke of yours tickled your funny bone, because it surely made me upset. I got up and left the house. I was so mad that I even banged the door on my way out. I called up my mom and told her I was coming. Even though I did not believe what Charles had said, I could still see a pinch of truth in his eyes. I had to make sure. I sat in the car and drove away. After some time I realized I had forgotten to give him his wallet back. It was still in my pocket. After the things he said, his wallet was the last of my concerns. It completely skipped my mind. I reached my mom's house and knocked on the door. My mom opened it and she was happy to see me as always. But she could also see from my face that something was bothering me. She told me to come in. I asked her where George was, and she said he went to one of his friends' places to watch a game. She asked me if I was hungry and if she could get me something to eat. I had so many things in my mind that I didn't answer her question and straight away told her about what happened. Mom, where's Dad? I told you. He went to his friend's place to watch a game. No, Mom, not George. Where's my real dad? What has gotten into you? Why are you asking about him? I just met an old man and he says he is my dad. It can't be. He left us years ago, honey. He never came back. I have his wallet. Here's his picture. Is this my father? Oh, God. It's Charles. I know it's Charles. I can see that in his ID. Is he my dad? Oh, Liam, honey, please don't get upset when I say this. Charles is your real father. Are you serious? I didn't tell you anything about him because I didn't want you to get hurt, Liam. I was just trying to protect you. What? I don't understand what's happening. Liam, listen. Charles is your real father. I'll tell you everything. Just calm down. Okay, Mom. I'm listening. Tell me everything, and I want the truth, the complete truth. Okay, honey. Charles is indeed your real father. I met him when I was young. I used to work in a breakfast club, and Charles used to come there with his friends. He was a little older than me. We both liked each other from the day our eyes met. We started seeing each other and fell in love. We got married, and soon we had you. But we started having fights, and then one day he just left us. Left us? What do you mean, just left us? He just left us. One day he was just gone and never came back. He left a note about how he cannot stay with us anymore. He took all the money with him and left us stranded. I knew how much you missed your dad, so I never told you the truth. I was just protecting you, trust me. Hey, Mom. Hey, look at me. I understand. Please, don't cry. I understand you didn't tell me the truth because you cared about me. It's not your fault. I'm so sorry, honey. I should have told you the truth. No, Mom. You have nothing to be sorry about. I know how much you've done to give me a good life, and I'm not mad at you. How could I be? And that too, for a man who was never around for his family. Mom, you made me the man I am today, and I love you so much. I hugged my mom while she cried. Being a parent, I could understand why she did not tell me the truth. I was not angry at her at all. She's a great mom. She has been through so much for me. I told my mom that it was okay. I made some hot chocolate for both of us. We drank it while we remembered some funny stories from back when I was a little kid. Soon, everything went back to normal. She started laughing and it was all okay. I asked her when George would be back and she told me he'll be here soon. I hugged her again, made sure she was feeling okay, and then left for my home. I got home, it was already 10. The kids were off to bed and I told my wife about everything. We talked about it over dinner. An hour later at around 11, I got a call from George. Hey George, is everything alright? Yeah. Is everything good? Ruth told me about what happened today. Are you okay? Honestly, I don't know how to feel. How's Mom? She alright? Don't worry, she's fine. I called up to check on you. Oh, I'm okay. Thanks, George. So, what are you doing now? Will you go meet him? I don't know. See, son, I just want to tell you that me and your mom, we're both okay if you want to keep him in your life. Your mom has already forgiven him a long time ago and has no issues if you want him to be in your life. It's your call. He is your father after all. Just do whatever feels right to you. Thanks, George. I really needed that. I'll just sleep over it and decide tomorrow. Today has been a long day. Alright, I'll let you sleep now. You must have work tomorrow. Alright, you sleep well, George. Good night. Oh, and one more thing. Thank you for everything you've done for me and Mom. You can always count on me, son. I almost felt like crying. My wife hugged me and told me everything was gonna be alright. Soon we went to bed. The next day I went to work and all I could think about was what had happened and what George had said to me over the call. I came back home from work in the evening and told my wife that I decided to call Charles home for dinner tomorrow. She was surprised, but without hesitation she agreed. I called George and told him that I'm inviting Charles to my home for dinner tomorrow. I also told him that I would love to have him and Mom come over for dinner as well. George told me to stay on hold while he asked Mom about this. He came back after some time and told me that they had no issues and they'll be there. I was happy to hear that. I took my car and drove to Charles' place. I knocked on the door and Charles opened it. He invited me in. I thought you'd never come in. I thought so too. But I wanted to invite you over to my place for dinner tomorrow. And also, I forgot to give you back your wallet. Here it is. Really? You're really here to invite me to your home for dinner? Yes, Charles. I want my kids to meet their grandfather, even though you were never around. And also, I have invited Mom and George for dinner as well. Ruth? And who is George? George is my stepfather. Okay, but does Ruth want me there? She said she's okay with it. Okay, I'll come. Thank you for inviting me. It's okay. This is the address and you can come at around 8. One more thing, just to get it out of the way. Why did you leave us, Charles? I was scared. I'm sorry. It was very overwhelming. I didn't know what to do. So you bailed on us? I'm sorry for what I did, Liam. I didn't know if I could handle it. I was just so scared. I could not take it. So was Mom, but she didn't leave me. You don't know what she's been through to raise me alone, and how much I've missed having a dad. I taught myself how to ride a bike. I had no one to play catch with. Mom worked day and night to provide for me. Even though I'm inviting you to my house, that does not mean what you did is past us. I just don't want my kids to not know their grandfather like I never knew my dad. Mom might have forgiven you, but not me. I am really sorry, Liam. I understand that you're upset. Upset? I'm mad at you for leaving us. You know what? Let's just leave it at here. You can't change anything now. The least you can do is meet your grandkids. This is the address to my place. I'll see you tomorrow at 8. Don't be late. At this point, I wasn't even angry. I didn't know what I was feeling. It was a volcano of emotions erupting inside of me. All I could think of was how a father could do this to his family, taking all the money, abandoning his kid and his wife. How Mom had to struggle to raise me, how she worked day and night to make ends meet. And coming back now after so many years when everything was all right? Where was he when we needed him the most? He's a coward, that's what he is. But then again, the father in me did not let me abandon him. I wanted my daughters to meet my real dad. That night I went home, spent some time with my family, kissed both my daughters goodnight, and promised my wife that I would do the best I could to be a good father and a good husband. The next day I woke up early. It was a Saturday, so I didn't have to go to work and my daughters didn't have school as well. My wife helped me prepare breakfast and all of us had a wonderful breakfast together. I took my family to watch a Disney movie. We had lunch outside, grabbed some ice cream, and had so much fun. We came back at around 6 in the evening. We rested for a while and then me and my wife started preparing food for dinner. At around 8, Charles came. I invited him in and introduced him to my wife and my 2 daughters. My daughters were hesitant to meet him. After all, he was a stranger to them, and to me as well to some extent. We got ourselves some drinks and sat on the couch. After a while, Mom and George came. The moment they came in, both my daughters went running at them and hugged them. I looked at Charles and could see on his face that it was hitting him inside to see what he had missed by not being around. Seeing his granddaughters call another man their grandpa hit him hard. Everyone came inside the living room area, and George introduced himself to Charles. Mom shook hands with Charles and asked him how he was. I could see Mom had truly forgiven him. She was unbothered by his presence. I guess she realized many years ago that Charles was no longer a part of her life. We all sat down in the living area and started talking to each other. Charles was hesitant to speak, but George was trying his best to comfort him. I told my daughters that Charles was their grandfather, and they instantly pointed at George, saying he was their grandfather. I could see that it made Charles sad. He realized that he could never truly be their grandfather. They saw George as their grandfather. After a while, we all had dinner. After we had dinner, Charles told my wife that the food was delicious and asked me if he could go outside. He needed some air. I asked him if I should come with him, but he said no. He'd be back in no time. It had been a while since he went out and he didn't come back. My wife told me to go out and check up on him. I went out there and he was sitting on the pavement. I went up to him and sat right next to him. I could see his eyes were numb. "You have a beautiful family, Liam. Are you okay? Do you need some water?" "I'm okay. It's just that now I can see I made a big mistake abandoning you all. You're here now. I need to tell you something. When I left your mom and you, it wasn't because I was scared. It was because I met another woman." "Another woman?" Yes. I'm sorry, Liam. Even your mother doesn't know about this." "You left your family for a woman?" "I know I made a big mistake. I ran away and got married to that woman. After a few years, she left me." "Looks like karma caught up to you." "After she left, I lived alone for many years, all by myself. Mom and I, we lived all by ourselves too. You only had to take care of yourself. Mom had to take care of herself and me. And looking at the man you've become, she did a wonderful job. It would have been easier for her if you were around. I cannot imagine what it was like for Ruth to raise you all by herself. She is a strong woman. And George, he seems like a good man." "He is a good man." "Seeing your kids call him grandpa and play with him hit me in my guts. I can never be their grandfather. You know, I live alone. And tonight I realize that I will always regret what a beautiful family I lost. I'm sorry that you did not have a dad growing up. You left us for another woman, and here I was thinking that there was a slight hope that you could be a part of our lives now. But now that I know the truth, I don't think you should be. I don't want my daughters to have a grandfather like you. George will always be their grandfather. You have no idea what Mom and I had to go through. Mom worked double shifts 6 days a week to bring enough money so I could go to school. There were times when we had nothing, and Mom somehow managed everything all by herself. You can never imagine what it was like. While you were living your life with someone else, Mom and I had no one. I think it would be best that you leave our lives and never come back." As soon as I said that, I got up and so did Charles. I could see how ashamed he was. He regretted leaving us for another woman and now he had nobody. He could see the beautiful family he could have had, but now he knew he could no longer be a part of this family, and he would probably have to live the rest of his life alone. I could also see the guilt in his eyes for leaving my mom to raise me all by herself and for not being around for me. He pulled himself together somehow and he held out his hand to shake hands with me. I shook his hand, and as soon as I did, he broke down. He knew what he had lost by leaving us for another woman. I wished him the best for his life, and he left. I could hear him sob as he was leaving, but I did not turn back to look at him. I did not feel bad for him. He was reaping what he sowed. I said to myself that leaving his wife and his son all by themselves for another woman is selfish. He abandoned his family for his happiness and didn't even check on us once to see if we were doing all right. Mom had to go through so much all because of him. And now that he was alone, he wants to be a part of our lives again? That's not happening. I came back and told everybody that he had left. My wife could see from my face that something had happened between me and Charles, but others were not bothered as much. I sat with my family and we had a good time together. It's been 3 years now since that night, and I never met him again. I've seen him a couple times in the streets and sometimes in the department stores, but never went up to him. Seeing him always reminds me of how important it is to be a good dad and a good husband. He made a selfish choice, and now he was all alone. He could have had a beautiful family, but he lost it. I'm glad that I have a strong and wonderful mom who did not abandon me like him when the chips were down. I'm so glad that she met a good man like George who takes care of her. And most of all, I am grateful to God for having a wonderful family that I can go to every day.